The morning sky over Seoul turned dark without warning. Commander Haejin stood on the roof of the Defense Force building, watching massive shadows block out the sun. Ships bigger than city blocks hung in the air like metal mountains. They had appeared out of nowhere, silent and threatening. "Sir, we're getting signals from all over the world." Captain Minsu's voice crackled through the radio. "These things are everywhere. New York, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, hundreds of them." Haejin gripped his radio tighter. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. The ships were smooth and dark, with no visible engines or weapons. They just floated there, waiting, 60 kilometers away in Bizan. Dr. Subin was running between computer screens in her research lab. Numbers and patterns filled every monitor. Her team of scientists worked frantically to understand the signals coming from the alien ships. "Doctor, look at this," her assistant called out. "They're not trying to communicate with us. They're talking to each other in the language. It's like nothing we've ever heard." Subin studied the patterns on her screen. The aliens were using complex mathematical codes, but something felt wrong. The patterns were too rigid, too predictable. Like a computer following a program instead of thinking. Above Earth's atmosphere, Captain Minsu floated in the orbital defense station. Through the thick windows, he could see the alien fleet stretching as far as his eyes could reach. The ships were beautiful in a cold, terrifying way. But they were also wrong somehow. Too perfect. Too clean. "Captain," his communications officer Yujin said quietly, "they're sending us something. It's in our language." The main screen flickered to life. A creature appeared that looked almost like a tall, thin human, but its skin was gray and its eyes were too large. When it spoke, its voice was flat and emotionless. "People of Earth," the alien said, "I am War Prime Thexmol of the Vorthek Empire. We have come to collect your species for service to our great civilization. You will surrender immediately and submit to processing." "This is not a request." Minsu felt his blood turn cold. The alien continued speaking without any emotion, like it was reading from a script. "We have conquered 47 worlds. We are superior to you in every way. Your weapons cannot harm us. Your technology is primitive. Resistance will result in your extinction. You have 72 hours to surrender completely." The screen went black. Minsu stared at the empty display, his mind racing. 47 worlds. How many billions of people had these creatures enslaved? Back in Seoul, Haejin was meeting with his officers. The room was tense and quiet. Everyone had seen the alien message. Everyone understood what it meant. "What do we know about their capabilities?" Haejin asked. "Sir, our radar can barely track them," Lieutenant Taeho reported. "They move faster than anything we've ever built. Their ships show no heat signatures, no energy readings we can understand. And their weapons? Unknown, sir, but—" Taeho paused. "Sir, they just demonstrated something near the moon." The wall screen activated, showing a live feed from a space telescope. In the distance, one of Earth's small moons suddenly exploded. Not hit by a missile or laser, it just came apart, breaking into pieces that drifted away into space. "They did that without firing anything we could detect," Taeho said quietly. "No energy beam, no projectile, the moon just died." The room fell silent. Jin felt the weight of command crushing down on him. How do you fight an enemy that can destroy moons with invisible weapons? In a factory in Incheon, worker Dong-ho was watching the news with his colleagues. The aliens had landed small ships in cities around the world. The creatures walking out of them were tall and thin, wearing smooth metal suits. They moved in perfect formation, like robots. "Look at how they walk," Dong-ho muttered to his friend. "Too straight, too careful. Like they've never seen uneven ground before." His friend stared at him. "Dong-ho, they just blew up a moon. Who cares how they walk?" But Dong-ho kept watching. Something bothered him about these aliens. They were obviously powerful, but they seemed limited somehow. Like they could only do things one way far south on Jeju Island. Farmer Hyori was hiding in her barn, watching alien soldiers search her property. They moved in a straight line, checking every building in order. When they found her chickens, they stopped and stared for a long time, like they had never seen animals that moved unpredictably. One alien tried to catch a chicken that ran between its legs. The creature stumbled and nearly fell. Its partner helped it up, and they both stared at the chicken with what looked like confusion. Hyori almost wanted to laugh, despite her fear. These mighty conquerors were puzzled by a chicken. Back in Bizan, Dr. Subin made a discovery that changed everything. She had been studying the alien communications for hours, looking for patterns. What she found was disturbing. Eugene, she called to her assistant. Look at these signal patterns. What do you see? Eugene studied the data. They're very organized. Very precise, but ... he frowned. Doctor, they're too organized. Every message follows the exact same structure. Like, they can only communicate in one specific way. Exactly, Subin said. And look at this. When our satellites changed position, their communications didn't adapt. They kept sending signals to where our satellites used to be, not where they moved to. What does that mean? Subin stared at her screens, pieces of a puzzle clicking together. In her mind, I think it means they're not as smart as they want us to believe. They're powerful, yes, but they might not be good at thinking differently. On the orbital station, Captain Minsu was having similar thoughts. He had been watching the alien ships for hours, and he noticed something strange. They never changed formation. Even when Earth's orbital debris forced human ships to adjust course constantly, the alien vessels stayed in perfect geometric patterns. Eugene, he said to his communications officer, try sending them random signals, nothing threatening, just random noise. Eugene looked confused but followed orders. He sent out various radio signals with no pattern or meaning. The response from the aliens was immediate and angry. War Prime Vexmal's face appeared on screen again. Cease your illogical transmissions immediately, the alien commanded. Your random signals serve no purpose. You will communicate only when spoken to. Minsu and Eugene looked at each other. The aliens were annoyed by randomness. They didn't understand why humans would send signals without a clear purpose. As the 72-hour deadline approached, leaders around the world prepared for the impossible choice. Fight an enemy that could destroy moons, or surrender their entire species to slavery, but in labs and military bases, on farms and in factories, humans were starting to notice things about their would-be conquerors. Small things, strange things. The mighty Vorthek Empire was powerful beyond imagination, but they had weaknesses. They just didn't know it yet. Commander Heijin stood on his roof again as the sun set, watching the alien ships hanging in the darkening sky. Tomorrow, humanity would have to give an answer. But tonight, reports were coming in from around the world. Scientists, soldiers, farmers, and workers all saying the same thing. These aliens were strong, but they were not human. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. The surrender came at dawn on the third day. President Kim sat in his office, signing papers that would hand over humanity to alien masters. His hands shook as he wrote his name on documents he could barely understand. Around the world, other leaders did the same thing. They had no choice. The alternative was the death of everyone on Earth. Commander Heijin watched from his window as the first alien transport ships landed in Seoul. They touched down in perfect rows in the largest park, their metal hulls gleaming in the morning light. Tall gray figures walked out in straight lines, carrying strange devices that hummed with energy. Within hours, the Vorthak had set up their first processing center where the old city hall used to be. The building changed quickly under their tools, growing taller and more angular. Everything became gray metal and sharp edges. It looked cold and empty, like no one was meant to live there. Overseer Kilvin stood in the center of the new facility, watching human workers install alien equipment. The creature was taller than most Vorthak, with scars across its gray skin. It had overseen the conquest of 12 worlds before Earth. This should be simple. Begin standard processing procedures. Kilvin commanded its subordinates. Separate the humans by physical capability. Ship strong specimens to the mining colonies. Keep breeding stock for maintenance duties. Eliminate the weak and elderly. But the procedures that worked on other worlds quickly ran into problems on Earth. Engineer So Young was among the first humans taken to the processing center. She had volunteered to go, telling her family she would be safer in alien custody. This was a lie. She went to study their technology from the inside. The Vorthek scanned her with strange lights and declared her suitable for technical work. They tagged her with a metal band around her wrist and assigned her to maintain their computers. So Young acted grateful and obedient. While secretly memorizing everything she saw, the alien computers were powerful but strange. They could solve complex problems instantly, but only if those problems followed rules the computers already knew. When So Young accidentally spilled water on a control panel, the entire system shut down rather than adapt to the minor change. Interesting, she whispered to herself when no aliens were watching. Meanwhile, Marine Sergeant Tejo was supposed to be dead. The aliens had marked him for elimination because of his military background. But during transport to the execution facility, the vehicle carrying him crashed when the driver swerved to avoid a stray dog. The Vorthak guards were injured and confused. They had never planned for accidents. While they argued about what to do, Tejo slipped away into the mountains surrounding Seoul. Within days, he found other soldiers who had escaped in similar ways. None of their escapes had been planned. They just happened when the aliens encountered something unexpected. They don't improvise, Tejo told his growing group of fighters. When something goes wrong, they stop and wait for orders instead of adapting. His men tested this theory during their first raid on an alien supply convoy. Instead of attacking from ambush positions like normal soldiers, they did everything wrong on purpose. They attacked uphill, in broad daylight, making noise and moving. In confused patterns, the Vorthak guards panicked. Their weapons were designed to target enemies who followed logical military tactics. When faced with humans who ignored basic strategy, the alien targeting systems couldn't lock on. The convoy was captured without the Vorthak firing a single shot. Security. Chief Jiwoo discovered similar weaknesses while organizing escapes from the processing centers. The alien guards followed precise patrol routes and never varied their timing. They checked the same cells in the same order every time. Breaking out was just a matter of counting steps and memorizing schedules, but the aliens became truly confused. When Jiwoo started moving prisoners to different cells randomly, the guards would search empty rooms while escapees walked freely through areas that weren't on the search schedule. The Vorthak computer systems couldn't understand why humans would be in places they weren't supposed to be. Dr. Young-ho had managed to get assigned to the alien medical facility by claiming to be a veterinarian. The Vorthak wanted to study human biology, and they needed someone who understood Earth animals for comparison. What Young-ho discovered changed everything he thought he knew about the aliens. The Vorthak were not naturally superior beings. They were the result of thousands of years of selective breeding and genetic modification. Every individual was designed for a specific purpose. Soldiers were strong but not smart. Scientists were intelligent but physically weak. Workers were durable but uncreative. They've never encountered a generalist species, Young-ho whispered to his hidden recording device. Every race they conquered was specialized like them. Strong fighters but weak thinkers, or smart builders but poor soldiers. They don't know how to handle humans who can be decent at everything. The revelation explained why the Vorthak seemed so confused by human behavior. Their entire empire was built on the idea that every creature had one primary function. The concept of a species that could adapt to any role was completely foreign to them. Mechanic Sungmin learned this lesson while working in the alien vehicle maintenance bays. The Vorthak machines were incredibly advanced, but they were also incredibly specialized. Each tool had exactly one purpose and could not be modified or used creatively. When Sungmin started combining human materials with alien components, the results surprised everyone. A car battery connected to Vorthak power cells created an energy source that lasted 10 times longer than either component alone. Human steel welded to alien metal became stronger than both materials separately. The aliens watched these improvements with what looked like horror. Their rigid thinking couldn't accept that primitive human technology could enhance their advanced systems. "It is impossible," one Vorthak engineer told Sung-min. "Inferior components cannot improve superior designs." But the hybrid technology worked anyway, whether the aliens believed in it or not. As weeks passed, reports reached Vorthak High Command that Earth was not following the standard conquest timeline. Humans were escaping in impossible ways. They were sabotaging alien equipment using primitive tools. They were creating weapons from scrap materials that somehow worked better than proper Vorthak designs. War Prime Nexmal reviewed the reports with growing confusion. 46 previous conquests had followed the same pattern. Initial resistance, demonstration of power, surrender, processing, compliance. Earth was supposed to be the easiest conquest yet, given humanity's primitive technology. Instead, it was becoming the most difficult. "Request additional forces," Dexmol commanded. "These humans are unpredictable. Standard procedures are insufficient." The request would take months to reach the Empire's core worlds and more months for reinforcements to arrive. In the meantime, the Vorthak on Earth would have to deal with a species that refused to follow the rules of conquest. They had no idea how much trouble they were really in. 6 months had passed since the aliens took control of Earth. The Vorthak thought they were winning. They controlled the major cities, processed millions of humans, and shipped countless workers to distant worlds. Their reports to High Command showed steady progress according to standard conquest protocols. They were completely wrong. Resistance. Leader Myung-soo crouched in an abandoned subway tunnel beneath Seoul, surrounded by maps, radios, and improvised weapons. He had been a high school history teacher before the invasion. Now he coordinated resistance cells across 3 continents. His weapon was not guns or bombs, but something the aliens could never understand: human stubbornness. "Today we show them what happens when you try to cage a species that refuses to be caged," he told his team through encrypted radio channels. "Remember, we don't fight to win battles. We fight to confuse them. Make them question everything they think they know about conquest." The plan was brilliantly simple. Every resistance cell would attack at exactly the same time, but not in ways the aliens expected. No military tactics, no logical targets. Pure chaos designed to break Vorthak computer systems that could only process predictable threats. Tech specialist Yoonji had spent months studying captured alien computers. She discovered something that made her laugh out loud in her hidden laboratory. The mighty Vorthak artificial intelligence could solve problems that would take human computers years to calculate. But show it something truly random, something without pattern or purpose, and it would freeze like a broken machine. "Their entire system is based on logic and prediction," she explained to her team of hackers. "They can't handle true randomness because they've never encountered it. Every species they conquered was logical in their own way. We're going to show them what illogical looks like." Her virus was a work of art. It didn't attack the alien systems directly. Instead, it fed them information that made no sense. Weather reports from planets that didn't exist. Mathematical equations that had no solutions. Human poetry written by children. When Yoonji released the virus into the Vorthak network, the results were immediate and spectacular. Alien computers across the globe began displaying error messages in languages that didn't exist. Transport ships landed in the middle of oceans because their navigation systems decided that water was the most logical place for a spaceport. The Vorthak technicians tried to fix their systems, but every solution they applied made things worse. They couldn't understand that the virus wasn't trying to destroy their computers. It was trying to teach them nonsense. Former Special Forces operative Jaemin was teaching a very different kind of lesson in the mountains outside Bizen. His students were not soldiers. They were farmers, shopkeepers, students, and grandmothers. People who had never held weapons before the invasion. "Forget everything you think you know about fighting," Jae-min told them. "The aliens expect us to fight like soldiers. So we're going to fight like humans instead." His training methods would have horrified any military academy. Students learned to attack while running away. They practiced using kitchen utensils as weapons. They studied how to make enemy soldiers laugh at the wrong moment. Most importantly, they learned to be completely unpredictable. The results were devastating for Vorthak forces. Alien soldiers were trained to fight enemies who followed combat logic. When faced with humans who threw rocks while singing children's songs, or who attacked by offering the enemy food, the aliens simply couldn't process what was happening, one grandmother named Mrs. Park became legendary among the resistance when she defeated an entire Vorthak patrol by acting confused and asking for directions. The aliens spent so much time trying to explain their patrol route to her that they didn't notice her granddaughter removing the power cores from their weapons. Scientist Kyung-suk made the discovery that changed everything. Working in a hidden laboratory in an old kimchi factory, she had been studying human and alien evolution for months. What she found explained why humanity was winning against impossible odds. "We're not trying to be better than them at what they do," she recorded in her secret notes. "We're showing them something they've never seen before. Every species they conquered was an evolutionary specialist. Warrior races that were strong but not smart. Builder races that were intelligent but not adaptable. We're the first generalist species they've ever met." Humans had evolved as persistence hunters, tool users, and social problem solvers. They were decent at everything and excellent at adapting to new situations. The Vorthak had never encountered anything like it. Pilot Sunwoo proved this theory when he led the first successful capture of a Vorthak warship. His plan was so ridiculous that even his own team thought he was crazy. Instead of attacking the ship, they would board it by pretending to be lost tourists. Sun-Woo and his team approached the massive alien vessel in a small fishing boat, waving and shouting greetings in broken English. They acted like excited civilians who wanted to take pictures with the aliens. The Vorthak crew was so confused by this behavior that they actually let the humans aboard to figure out what was wrong with them once inside. Sunwoo's team didn't fight the aliens. They simply started touching everything, asking questions, and acting like they were on a guided tour. The ship's defensive systems couldn't target enemies who weren't behaving like enemies. Meanwhile, hidden team members disabled critical systems by accidentally spilling coffee on control panels and plugging human devices into alien computers. The ship was captured without a single shot being fired. The Vorthak crew spent the entire time trying to explain to the humans that they weren't supposed to be there. Construction worker In-ho and his team were causing similar chaos on the ground. They had been assigned to build new facilities for the aliens. Instead, they built exactly what the Vorthak ordered, but with subtle modifications that drove the aliens insane. Doors that were slightly too narrow for alien bodies. Stairs with steps that were just the wrong height for Vorthak legs. Control panels placed where they were technically accessible but practically impossible to use comfortably. The aliens couldn't complain because the buildings met all their specifications. They just couldn't understand why everything felt wrong when they tried to use human-built structures. "It's not sabotage," In-ho explained to his confused workers. "It's just building things the way humans build them instead of the way aliens think." By the end of 6 months, Vorthak commanders across Earth were sending increasingly frantic reports to their superiors. Standard conquest procedures were not working. Human resistance was not following any recognizable patterns. Most disturbing of all, the aliens were starting to question whether they understood conquest at all. War Prime Nexmal stood in its command center, staring at reports that made no sense. Humans were winning battles by losing them. They were destroying alien equipment by trying to fix it. They were escaping from prisons by getting themselves arrested somewhere else. "Request immediate reinforcements," Nexmal transmitted to High Command. "The humans are... The War Prime paused, struggling to find words for something its language had no terms for. They are impossible. War Marshal Kethver stood on the bridge of the greatest warship in Vorthak history, watching Earth grow larger through the massive viewing window. Behind the flagship followed 200 vessels carrying the Empire's most experienced soldiers, their deadliest weapons, and their finest psychological warfare specialists. The War Marshal had conquered 15 worlds personally. Its scars told stories of victories against species that could melt steel with their minds, warriors who could survive in the vacuum of space, and civilizations that built weapons from pure energy. A primitive world like Earth should surrender. Within days. Commence standard intimidation protocols, Kethver commanded. Destroy 3 major cities immediately. The humans will understand their situation once they see our true power. But Admiral Guri was ready for them. From her rebuilt command center in the mountains outside Seoul, she watched the alien fleet approach through satellite feeds. The human resistance had spent months preparing for this moment. They knew reinforcements would come. They also knew the aliens would underestimate them again. All units, remember the plan, she broadcast to resistance cells worldwide. They want to scare us into surrender. Instead, we're going to teach them what human fear really does to us. The Vorthak war fleet opened fire on London, Mumbai, and Sydney simultaneously. The cities vanished in brilliant flashes of light that could be seen from space. Millions of people died in seconds. The aliens waited for global surrender. Messages that would surely follow such overwhelming displays of power. They received something very different instead. Intelligence Officer Wu Jin intercepted alien communications from his hidden bunker in Jeju Island. What he heard changed his understanding of the enemy completely. The Vorthak weren't celebrating their successful attack. They were confused and worried. Target populations did not respond with standard fear patterns, one alien commander reported. Expected panic and surrender requests. Instead, human activity has increased in all sectors. Resistance attacks have doubled in frequency and intensity. The aliens had made a critical mistake. They thought destroying cities would break human morale. Instead, it had unleashed something they had never encountered before. Human spite on a planetary scale. Farmer Sang Ho demonstrated this perfectly when Vorthak forces arrived to process his village. Instead of running or hiding, he welcomed them with a feast. The aliens were suspicious but curious. No conquered species had ever offered them food before. The meal was delicious. The aliens ate everything, complimenting Sang Ho on flavors their advanced nutrition systems had never experienced. They left feeling satisfied and slightly confused by human hospitality. 3 days later, the entire alien garrison was dead from diseases their sterile immune systems had never encountered. Sang Ho had fed them earth bacteria and viruses cultivated in fermented foods that humans had been safely eating for thousands of years. They're too clean, he explained to other farmers who wanted to copy his methods. They've spent so long in controlled environments that they can't handle the messy reality of a living planet. Former teacher Bio Ra was causing different kinds of problems in the ruins of Bizan. The aliens had killed her husband in their attack on the city, thinking this would break her spirit. Instead, it focused her mind with laser precision on their destruction. Bio-Ra organized the surviving children into an intelligence network that operated completely below Vorthak notice. The aliens ignored human children, considering them non-threats. This was a massive mistake. Children could go anywhere, ask innocent questions, and gather information without raising suspicion. They were also naturally chaotic in ways that confused. Alien surveillance systems. A group of kids playing games looked like random movement to Vorthak sensors, even when they were actually mapping guard patrol routes. Most importantly, children learned fast and adapted faster. Within weeks, Bo-Ra's network had infiltrated every alien facility in the region. The kids spoke to each other in playground codes the aliens couldn't crack and passed messages through games that looked meaningless to adult observers. The turning point came when the Vorthak made their worst mistake yet. During a public execution meant to terrorize the population, they killed Halmoni Sunya, A beloved grandmother who had survived the Korean War and raised 12 children. Communications specialist Nari was there with a hidden camera when it happened. She watched the 90-year-old woman face the alien executioner without fear, speaking quietly to the crowd in Korean before the energy weapon ended her life. She said to remember that these creatures have never faced grandmothers before, Nari whispered into her microphone as she recorded. She said they have no idea what they just awakened. The footage spread across human networks faster than any virus. Not because it was horrifying, but because it crystallized something every human understood instinctively. The aliens had killed someone's grandmother. This was unforgivable. The response was immediate and planet-wide. Humans who had been cooperating with the occupation stopped. Workers sabotaged everything they touched. Translators gave aliens wrong information. Guides led patrols into traps disguised as helpful directions. Engineer Chang Su finally solved the mystery of Vorthok technology during this time. Working with captured alien devices, he discovered they weren't actually more advanced than human technology in most ways. They were just more specialized. Look at this weapon, he explained to his team while dismantling a Vorthok energy rifle. It can vaporize a tank, but it can't stun a human without killing them. Their computer can calculate hyperspace jumps, but it can't play music. Everything they build does one thing perfectly and nothing else at all. This explained why human-alien hybrid technology works so well. Human devices were designed to be flexible and multi-purpose. Alien technology was powerful but rigid. Combining them created tools that were both versatile and powerful. Chang Su's greatest breakthrough came when he reverse-engineered a Vorthok scanner and discovered how their sensors actually worked. The aliens weren't using advanced physics to detect targets. They were just very good at recognizing patterns their computers had been programmed to identify. They can't see us when we're being random, he told Admiral Guri during a secret meeting. Their sensors look for logical behavior patterns. When we act illogically, we become invisible to their technology. Captain Hyun Woo proved this theory. During the first successful human attack on a Vorthok command ship, his assault team approached the vessel using ancient Korean military tactics combined with improvised human technology and captured alien weapons. The attack made no sense from a military perspective. Hyun Woo's forces advanced in random directions, used weapons in ways they weren't designed for, and communicated through traditional Korean poetry that alien interceptors couldn't translate. The ship's defensive systems couldn't target enemies who weren't following recognizable attack patterns. When the humans finally boarded the vessel, they continued their chaotic approach. Instead of fighting toward the bridge like proper soldiers, they spread throughout the ship doing random damage and confusing the crew. The Vorthok defenders had trained for every possible invasion scenario except the one actually happening. They couldn't adapt when their enemies refused to follow invasion logic. The ship fell to humans armed with kitchen knives, gardening tools, and alien weapons they were using incorrectly but effectively. War Marshal Kethver reviewed the battle reports with growing horror. In 6 months, the mighty Vorthok Empire had gone from confident conquest to desperate confusion. These humans were impossible to predict, impossible to intimidate, and apparently impossible to defeat using standard methods. For the first time in its long military career, the War Marshal began to wonder if conquest was actually possible against a species that refused to be conquered. 2 years after the first alien ships appeared over Earth, the galaxy was burning. What started as a simple conquest had become the largest crisis in Vorthok history. Rebellion spread like wildfire across 47 worlds as conquered species watched humans fight impossible odds and decided they could do the same. President Moon Jae sat in the rebuilt Capitol building in Seoul, but he was no longer negotiating Earth's surrender. Instead, he was coordinating with leaders from 12 different alien species who had contacted Earth secretly. The Vorthok Empire was fracturing, and everyone wanted to know how humans had broken the unbreakable. The key is not trying to beat them at their own game, Moon Jae explained to the holographic images of alien rebels gathered around his table. We don't fight them with better technology or stronger weapons. We fight them by being something they cannot understand or predict. The strategy was working across the galaxy. On Kepler 442b, the conquered Threx people had learned to modify their bioluminescent communication patterns into random displays that confused Vorthok surveillance systems. On Volf 359c, the enslaved Korthak were using human-inspired chaos tactics to overwhelm their overseers, but the real war was still being fought on Earth. Pilot Tae Young climbed into the cockpit of his captured Vorthok fighter, a ship he had rebuilt using human engineering principles. The alien vessel was faster and more powerful than anything humans had ever built, but it had originally been designed to fight predictable enemies. Tae Young had modified it to be unpredictable instead. His ship could now fly backwards while shooting forward, change direction randomly during combat, and use weapons in combinations that violated every rule of space battle tactics. Alien pilots trained for millions of battle scenarios found themselves helpless against an enemy who ignored all scenarios. Phoenix Squadron, remember the plan, Tae Young radioed to his mixed fleet of human and alien pilots. We're not trying to win a space battle. We're trying to teach them that space battles don't have rules. The attack on the Vorthak command fleet was beautiful chaos. Human ships dove directly into enemy formations. Alien allies attacked their own former masters using tactics learned from human resistance fighters, and captured Vorthak vessels turned their weapons on ships that looked exactly like them. The battle lasted 6 hours and ended with the complete destruction of War Marshal Kethver's flagship. The War Marshal itself survived only because it was captured by a force it still couldn't understand or classify. Scientist Dayun had spent 2 years studying captured Vorthok medical technology, and she had made discoveries that revolutionized both human and alien medicine. The aliens had perfect treatments for diseases that affected specialized species, but they had no idea how to handle human adaptability. Their medicine is like their everything else, she explained to the mixed group of human and alien doctors in her lab. Very good at one thing, useless at everything else. But human bodies are designed to adapt. We can take their specialized treatments and make them work for multiple purposes. Her hybrid medical treatments were already saving lives across the galaxy. Alien species that had suffered under Vorthok medical experiments were being healed by combinations of their own biology, human adaptability, and modified alien technology. The breakthrough came when Dayun realized that humans could serve as biological bridges between incompatible alien medical systems. Human blood, modified with alien components, could carry treatments between species that had never been able to share medical knowledge before. Meanwhile, Soldier Kehoe was proving that human military tactics worked even better when combined with alien allies. His mixed units fought battles that broke every rule of galactic warfare. Vorthok commanders found themselves facing armies that included species that had been enemies for centuries, all working together under human leadership. The secret is not trying to make everyone fight the same way, Kehoe explained to his alien officers. Let everyone fight the way they're good at, but do it all at the same time in the same place. The Vorthak can handle one type of enemy. They can't handle 12 different types attacking together. His victories were spreading hope across the galaxy and terror through Vorthok ranks. Species that had given up on freedom were learning that the Empire could be defeated by cooperation instead of conquest. The final confrontation came when the Vorthak made their last desperate gambit. Faced with rebellions on dozens of worlds and the collapse of their empire, they decided to destroy Earth completely rather than admit defeat. War Marshal Kethver stood in chains before the Galactic Council, but it still commanded enough loyalty to order the final attack. Massive weapons platforms moved into position around Earth, preparing to crack the planet like an egg. If we cannot have this world, Kethver announced, then no one will have it. The humans will serve as an example to all who would defy the Vorthok Empire. But Engineer Heeson was ready for them. For 2 years, she had been working on the ultimate human weapon, a defense system that used captured alien technology, human engineering, and the cooperation of every free species in the galaxy. The network was chaotic, improvised, and completely impossible according to every rule of military science. It worked perfectly. When the Vorthak weapons fired, they found their energy absorbed by shields that shouldn't exist, redirected by systems that made no sense, and turned back on the attackers by weapons that had been built from kitchen appliances and alien computers. The climax came when Kethver challenged Hisun to personal combat, believing that superior Vorthak genetics would triumph over human weakness. The War Marshal was stronger, faster, and armed with the finest weapons the Empire could provide. Hisun fought with a wrench, a modified alien tool, and 2 centuries of human stubbornness. She didn't try to match the War Marshal's strength or speed. Instead, she used the environment, improvised weapons, and psychological warfare that left her opponent completely confused. The fight ended when Hisun convinced Kethver to defeat itself by explaining logically why its own tactics were wrong. The War Marshal became so confused by human logic that it forgot to defend itself and was knocked unconscious by a flying toolbox. The war ended not with a great battle, but with a surrender ceremony that confused everyone involved. The Vorthak Empire formally recognized humanity as a protected species and agreed to withdraw from Earth and grant independence to all their former colonies. Ambassador Yuna stood before the Galactic Council, representing not just Earth but a new coalition of free worlds. Species that had been enemies for millennia sat together as allies, united by the simple human idea that cooperation worked better than conquest. The Vorthak Empire fell because they believed in specialization over adaptation, Yuna addressed the gathered representatives. They thought the galaxy belonged to the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced. But the galaxy actually belongs to those who refuse to give up, who adapt to any situation, and who help each other succeed. The Council voted unanimously to establish the Free Worlds Alliance, with humans serving as mediators and teachers. Not because humans were the strongest species, but because they were the most stubborn. The former Vorthak worlds began the long process of learning freedom. Some adapted quickly. Others struggled with concepts like cooperation and creative thinking. But all of them had human advisors who specialized in the most important skill in the galaxy, refusing to quit when things seemed impossible. In the end, humanity won not by being better than their enemies, but by being more human than anyone thought possible. They saved the galaxy through sheer bloody-minded determination to help anyone who needed help and annoy anyone who deserved annoying. The universe was a better place for it.